from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up today on Ag Day, all eyes on Harvey.
These state highways, county roads, railroad systems are being washed away.
Rice farmers in the path of Harvey race through harvest. An analysis, what to do now with Farm Journal Crop Tour data.
So you go into the tour trying not to have expectations.
Yeah.
Awful hard this year.
And a dairyman dedicated to Wisconsin's dairy industry is recognized for his success.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Clinton is on assignment at Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois. Topping our news this Wednesday morning is the massive storm named Harvey. The National Hurricane Center issued its latest projection of the path of the still dangerous storm. Right now, it appears the storm will track up through the Mississippi Valley, across the Mid-South, and hit the southern Corn Belt this weekend before making its way to the East Coast. And while the storm will weaken, forecasters say it still carries an abundance of rain. Cotton futures lingering higher most of the day Tuesday as the industry figures out the impact Harvey had and is having on this year's cotton crop. Cotton experts telling AgDay October cotton is running on a premium to the back month contracts because the next shipment of cotton supplies are supposed to come out of the area impacted by Harvey. This comes at a time when cotton supplies are tight due to demand. Other large cotton producing states won't harvest for a while. Some farmers also telling AgDay that yields this year were some of the best they ever had. Meanwhile, a majority of the state's first rice crop had already been harvested prior to the storm. The crop progress report says 87% is out of the field. But the second crop, the ratoon crop, is now at risk depending on how quickly the water goes down. Most Texas rice is grown near the Colorado River in Colorado, Wharton, and Matagorda counties, which are just southwest of Houston. Harvey is also dumping massive rain in southwest Louisiana, but there are concerns about the rice crop in the northern part of the state. According to LSU Ag Center, a majority of the rice crop in the southern parishes had already been harvested. But like Texas, there is concern about the ratoon crop. Their rice specialists say the next 48 hours will be the most telling. But in northern parishes, rice harvest is just getting underway, and rice farmers have been optimistic about the yield potential before Harvey.
The crop up there has looked tremendously good throughout the growing season. We just hope these frequent rainfalls, events, don't cause some of our yields to drop because we're not getting in there on time.
Harrell says an increase in rice prices recently may soften the blow of lower yields. The storm and its aftermath is also being discussed at the Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois. Clinton Griffiths talked with one Texas farmer who's at the show, but his mind is on his home state. Clinton?
Hey there, yes, we're at the Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois, where thousands upon thousands of farmers from across the region, in fact from across the world, are here taking in the sights and sounds from the ag industry as they introduce new equipment, talk policy, talk issues, and there's so much to talk about this year between, prices, crop conditions, farm incomes, and the challenges we all face there. But even while they're here enjoying the sights and sounds of Farm Progress Show, they're still thinking about their fellow farmers and ranchers back in Texas dealing with Hurricane Harvey.
Infrastructure is being destroyed. These state highways, county roads, railroad systems are being washed away, and we don't even see how bad it is until the water disappears.
And of course, I'll be here over the next couple of days talking about some of the biggest issues facing agriculture, and we'll have a visit from Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue. Reporting from the Farm Progress Show, I'm Clinton Griffiths in Decatur, Illinois.
USDA rolling out its latest crop progress report showing overall 62% of corn is rated good to excellent, unchanged from last week, while soybeans tick a point higher, 61% rated good to excellent. Some of the biggest gains in the Corn Belt for soybeans are South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa. But scouts on that western leg of the Farm Journal Crop Tour say soybean conditions are a big surprise this year, with some low pod counts and flat pods.
We've been struggling for bean counts from day one. We started in South Dakota. We ran short on bean numbers. It followed us into Nebraska, even through the irrigated parts of Nebraska. It didn't change. Yesterday into western Iowa. We saw some better numbers in Iowa, but at the end of the day, our average was still 21% below our 3-year average on the same route. So that's the beans are surprising me. Normally beans are a crop that'll take a detrimental weather year more than corn will. And this year it hasn't been the case.
For corn, South Dakota seeing a 4-point jump higher, Nebraska, Minnesota unchanged, while Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Iowa all seeing declines in corn. Some on tour believe the drought in Iowa isn't enough to move the market at this point.
Given that you have a drought problem in the West and Iowa's in that range, I don't think it really matters in the big picture of things to the market. You're talking about a swing of 120, 130 million bushel in that range. We got bigger problems on our hands today than worrying about 100 million bushel.
Some farmers in Indiana are shelling corn. Mike Hoffman has an update in this morning's crop comments.
Good morning, Betsy. Samuel Ebenkamp in Ireland, Indiana says a handful of farmers in his area are starting harvest. That's early for that location. He says it's mostly on early planted April corn. Sam says, however, a lot of the silage is being chopped in the area as well. And Matt Borgen sending us this picture of sugar beet harvest by Georgetown, Minnesota. He says conditions are ideal for harvest. He could use some rain, though, to help finish the rest of the crop. And taking a look at the weather map this morning, you can see a couple of tropical systems. Of course, Tropical Storm Harvey will be weakening, but turning into a very wet area of low pressure. Otherwise, high pressure dominating most of the Corn Belt. We'll have your forecast coming up, but first, here are some hometown temps.
This is Machinery Pete, inviting you to check out my new website, machinerypete.com. Offering farmers tens of thousands of used equipment listings to search, let Machinery Pete help you find and value your next piece of used equipment.
Now that the Farm Journal crop tour is over, what should you do with the Pro Farmer crop estimates when it comes to the corn crop? Tyne Morgan takes a closer look and analysis. Amazon follows through with a promise to lower prices at its marquee store, Whole Foods. We'll see what kind of savings consumers are finding. And later, the dairy industry honors a man who spent a lifetime supporting the important business sector in Wisconsin. Details as we head in the country.
Join us on the U.S. Farm Report Facebook page, Friday, September 8th at 10 a.m. Central Time for Foliar Health Focus. We'll have experts live in the field discussing proactive disease control strategies that worked this year and ways to boost your yield in 2018.
Where did the markets close Tuesday? For that, we'll head down to the CME floor in Chicago for an update.
The lean hog market under a lot of pressure here this week. As a matter of fact, on Tuesday, both our October and December contracts traded into some fresh 10-month lows, lowest levels in those contracts since October of 2016. So very, very ugly trade here, especially the last 3 days. The sell-off has really accelerated. I believe we've lost more than $10 a hundredweight off of that October contract just since the middle of August here. So really some pretty nasty stuff. Corn market was lower here again on Tuesday. It's been a pretty bad start to the week. As a matter of fact, both September and December futures traded into some fresh life of contract lows. Corn market's following a fairly normal seasonal pattern. You know, in a normal year, we'll put in some sort of summer high, which we saw in July, followed by a deterioration into harvest, and that's kind of what we're in the midst of right now. So the market very, very weak in a time where it usually is weak during the calendar year. One of the issues that's also still affecting the market negatively is the old crop issue. There is still a lot of farmer-owned old crop corn out there. There's still a lot of commercial-owned old crop corn out there. We're just really flush with supply here in this country. We don't have a supply problem. That paired with what looks to be a pretty good crop coming our way in harvest here this September, October, it makes for a pretty bearish situation. Again, Joe Vakovic from CME Group here in Chicago.
Farm Journal crop tour is over, and it looks as if we still have a lofty corn crop in the U.S. What should farmers look at now post-tour? Tyne Morgan discusses with market analyst Jared Creed.
Here now with Jared Creed. Jared, you are on the western leg of the crop tour. You know, you saw some dry areas as you were in western Iowa in those portions. But overall, from what I'm hearing, you know, it was still a pretty decent crop despite the challenges this year.
Sure. So you go into the tour trying not to have expectations.
Yeah.
Awful hard this year. You know, we started in South Dakota, obviously, and made our way through southeast South Dakota into Nebraska. And lucky enough, this is the third time I've been through what I would kind of call the heart of Nebraska irrigated country. This year was massively different than last year. much less storm damage, no green snap problems, no hail problems. All those pieces really drove up the Nebraska crop. And, you know, Iowa and Minnesota was just kind of a ho-hum, kind of a boring state, to be honest with you. You didn't find anything incredible. You didn't find anything poor. What really intrigues me here is now that you learn all of these numbers from the crop tour is you pretty much have Iowa, Nebraska, Illinois, and Minnesota all at 180 bushel an acre now. Story's over. At the end of the day now, we've got 2 million acres too much corn.
Yeah.
We started the marketing year with the projections of planting 89 million acres of corn, and with recent FSA numbers, there's a chance that the final acreage ends up being 91, maybe even 91.2.
So what needs to change what needs to happen to change the storyline?
You know, often you'll hear that rotation is king. I'm a believer that price really matters. There certainly will be some rotation that'll come into play. I think the market's setting itself up to, eventually gain some more soybean acres next year with the decreases in the price of wheat, obviously, and corn just continuing to put pressure on the balance sheet for the farmer. Hopefully next year we can be looking at an 88 million acre corn number and 92 million acres of soybeans. But really the story's over for now until we get to January to see any type of major switches for this year's crop and projections for next year's acres.
All right, Jared Creed, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Stay with us. We have more Ag Day when we come back.
Welcome back to Ag Day with meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, all eyes are on Harvey right now as it makes its way through the Mississippi Valley. What do you have to tell us?
And it's all on the speed and the track exactly who gets all the moisture. So we're going to go over that right now. Other than that, you can see high pressure from Texas to the Ohio Valley just dominating things. But the moisture from Harvey is going to kind of split the difference here and come in between those areas of high pressure. By the way, this system in the Atlantic won't affect anybody, maybe far southeastern New England, for a short period of time. So let's check things out as we put the maps into motion. The remnants of Harvey turns into a low pressure system by later today. Still some wind, but it's mainly a rain event at this point into central and northern portions of Louisiana. You can see the first area of high pressure moving southeast. We also have this cold front coming southward. This is kind of key as well. All depends on the interaction of these two systems. And as Harvey continues to come northward into Arkansas, the western Tennessee Valley, you can see that rain moving all the way up into western Kentucky by tomorrow morning, and then we head through the day tomorrow. You can see how it starts to track a little bit farther east. It's going to interact with this front and probably throw some rain on up into southern Illinois, southern Indiana, southern Ohio as well. How far north is the big question. So let's take a look at things. I've used a longer range computer model that kind of splits the difference between all the different models on where Harvey's going to track. Here's the past 24 hours. We'll add on the next 36 or so. This takes us through 7 p.m. On Thursday tomorrow, and then you can see we'll take it on through 7 p.m. on Friday, and then on beyond that it starts to track farther to the east. So zooming in on this, you can kind of see it's going to go obviously from eastern Texas, Louisiana, with some of the heavier amounts into the eastern portions of Arkansas. You can see the Memphis area going to get a lot of rain. Some of these are 6 to 7 inch amounts. You can see in that bullseye there. This is according to computer models. Then it takes it on up into extreme southern Indiana, Kentucky, and from there it tracks it northeastward. But I have the feeling we're going to see a lot bigger amounts in the mountains of Pennsylvania and West Virginia, depending on where it tracks. That typically happens when it starts to hit mountains. It's really going to produce a lot of rain once again. You can see high temperatures, though, typical for this time of the year. Lots of 70s and 80s through the middle of the country. Now, triple-digit high temperatures in the southwest, and that's going to continue to be the case as well. Tomorrow afternoon, more of the same as far as temperatures in the eastern portions of the country, very muggy south of the front. There's the jet stream. And you can see we have these troughs digging into the Great Lakes northeast. Then it kind of goes away for a while. By Labor Day weekend, the end of the weekend, we'll see a big trough moving into the middle of the country, and that will really cool things down, northern plains and the Great Lakes, by the middle of next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Livingston, Montana, first of all, mixture of sunshine and clouds and hot, high of 94 degrees. Little Rock, Arkansas, cloudy with rain developing, high of 81. And finally, Charleston, West Virginia, partly sunny, rather warm, afternoon high temperature around 83.
Next in news from our partners at the Packer, did the produce sector get spared the wrath of Harvey? And meet a one-time farmer who uses his passion to support the dairy industry of Wisconsin, and he's getting honors for doing so. Today in Packer TV, Harvey is leaving its mark, flooding fields in Texas, but industry leaders say produce is not impacted as much. A representative with Texas International Produce Association says a lot of produce is grown outside of the flood areas. A majority of it was not planted. Citrus, grapefruit, and oranges are grown in the southern corner of the state, but those crops were spared for the most part because those crops escaped high, dangerous winds. The association says blueberries in the east may be impacted the most. Luckily, it's towards the end of the season. TIPA does not know how much of the blueberry crop is damaged at this time. Online retail giant Amazon kicked off its first day as the owner of Whole Foods by slashing prices. Some of those price reductions are found in the produce aisle. An organic avocado costs less than $1. Our partners at the Packer say Amazon intends to lower prices on organic kale and lettuce, as well as a variety of apples. There was also a price cut in milk, ground beef. Up next, we meet a Wisconsin man who spent a lifetime supporting the state's dairy industry, and now he's getting recognized for those efforts.
Join us on the U.S. Farm Report Facebook page, Friday, September 8th at 10 a.m. Central Time for Foliar Health Focus. We'll have experts live in the field discussing proactive disease control strategies that worked this year and ways to boost your yield in 2018. In the country, brought to you by Kubota. Check out Kubota's RTVX 1140, a rugged utility vehicle with seating for 4. Stop by your local dealer today or visit Kubota.com.
The World Dairy Expo is coming up in about a month. Each year, they shine the spotlight on industry leaders. In this video, provided by the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board, we meet the Industry Person of the Year.
Ben Bransel's agriculture career started early when he learned how to manage dairy cows from his grandfather.
My grandfather did a lot of firsts in his life, and my dad did a lot of firsts in his life, and my mom did some firsts as well in her life, and so they've encouraged me to reach out, do things.
In 1975, he purchased the family farm, and since then, his extensive farming experience has helped him develop a career off the farm in government. He started his government career as a representative for the 42nd Assembly District and worked his way to Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection. Now he's being recognized as World Dairy Expo's Dairy Industry Person of the Year.
I don't know who nominated me, and I'm not sure what attributes they thought were valuable enough to consider in the selection, but very happy to be recognized.
The recognition is fitting since Bransel was instrumental in the construction of the New Holland pavilions at the Alliant Energy Center and can be found every year volunteering at World Dairy Expo.
It's certainly a national and internationally recognized not only event but recognition program. And I think Ben Bransel is certainly a very deserving winner for the 2017 Industry Person of the Year.
Ever humble, Bransel takes the recognition in stride and gives credit to the state of Wisconsin for offering so much to the dairy industry.
And Wisconsin is the hub. It's the place where you can find the supplies, the services, the technology, the education, the research that makes everything possible to make us truly America's dairyland.
And that's Wisconsin Dairy News.
2 years ago, our own Jim Dickrell was honored as the 2015 Industry Person of the Year. World Dairy Expo runs October 3rd through 7th in Madison, Wisconsin. Well, that's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. For Tyne Morgan and Mike Hoffman, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Have a great day.
AgDay is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.